Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to AEW Dynamite, October 9th, 2019 review. This show was sensational. It had everything going for it. It was fun. Its ending was unbelievable. The heel had an opportunity. The heels on the inner circle for Jericho's team had an upper hand for a small period of time at the end of the show. And then then Cody Rhodes' team of guys started taking control of the match, and then Darby Allin made an unbelievable move on Jericho, which I'll get into when I get to that point. Another good thing, we had a number one contenders match with Darby Allin and Jimmy Havoc for a number one contenders match to determine who would get a shot at the AEW World Champion Chris Jericho for next week's show. Do I agree with this? Kind of, but kind of don't. I think this should be saved like after Full Gear. That way we get that the first title defense is really against Cody Rhodes. And Cody would end up... I feel that Cody needs to lose this match. I don't think Jericho should lose the title to Cody Rhodes. I think it should be a young talent that they've built up into something later on during the next 6 months or so, or a little bit sooner if they get them really high on everybody's expectations and are actually really interested in. But I don't feel Cody needs to win the world title yet. I think that needs to be later on next year. I think right now we need to get Jericho being the top heel, which he already is practically, but make him look strong and beating other big name stars for the time being until they find their first ever, like their young star that would be that person to take the title off of Jericho. Because I feel that they need to focus on building these younger guys. What they did tonight, I think, was outstanding. I think even though I don't 100% agree with the idea of giving, just to get right into it, Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allin. Darby Allin won the match to get the number one contendership. I'll get into more detail about the match specifically when I get to that point. But this match, this idea of having this match, I think is great. It helps Darby Allin get pushed a little bit more with another big name star, a little bit more media attention for him. And I think he's going to have a really good match with Jericho. Where they're having this match immediately after this pay-per-view. These shows feel like pay-per-views. They feel very important. They don't feel like just a regular, ordinary, oh, okay, 2 hours of wrestling and then on to the next episode next week. No, we feel like we're watching like what we've been watching for the last 3 or 4 months now since fucking Double or Nothing. We feel like we're watching a legit fucking kind of pay-per-view SK type show. I love it. The arena, the people that are there are invested in what is being presented to them. I love this company. Absolutely love AEW. I love what they have to offer. They got a lot of young stars that they have the capabilities of turning into megastars. I think they got the capability of turning them into something. Making the WWE feel a little pathetic for not being able to, push these people the way they should be. But then again, look, I keep going back comparison of the AEW, WWE deal. I'm going to save that for another time. I'll talk about that in Random Wrestling Talk. Now let's just focus on AEW Dynamite for October 9th. So yeah, Darby Allin, he got an opportunity for the world title next week. I feel that this match should have been placed after Full Gear. That's just how I feel on it. But at the end of the day, they're doing the right thing by putting Darby Allin in this type of situation and getting more interest in him like they have been. Since this match with Cody Rhodes at Fyter Fest, he's been getting a lot of attention. he's caught my attention heavily. I think he's going to be a star in this company down the road. As well as MJF, I think he's going to be awesome. He already is, truthfully. I just don't see him as world champion material yet. So we kickstart the show with the Young Bucks and the Private Party. They do a small video package like they did last week, giving us some insight on both tag teams, especially giving us more insight on Private Party because Young Bucks, we all know them if you've been following professional wrestling for like at least the last 10 years or so. So if you've been following it for like 5 or 10 years, then you know who the Young Bucks are. And I mean, quite frankly, they've won a tag team championships everywhere they've went. This matchup between Private Party and Young Bucks was a great start to this show. Just like last week with Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara, this was a good start to this show as well. I'm glad they picked the right team as well. Private Party deserve to be moving on. They need to highlight the new stars. They need to give these people a place to stand on because they need to get more attention to be able to become something in this company and make this company mean something. Young Bucks have won championships all over the place. Them winning this tournament would not hurt them whatsoever. So glad they went with the Private Party, made the right decision here. I'm seeing a lot of good things when it comes to decision making, such as in the fact that we're not seeing the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, or even Cody Rhodes for that matter, being pushed so heavily to win championships. Now, I understand Cody Rhodes is facing Jericho for the world title. Some people come at me and say, hey, look, you're going ahead and giving them all this credit, but then you got Cody Rhodes competing for the title against Chris Jericho. There's a good reason why Cody Rhodes is competing against Chris Jericho for the world championship. One, he is one of the top stars on the brand. He is one of the top guys in their company. For him to face Cody Rhodes will help Full Gear get more pay-per-view buys. That does not mean Cody Rhodes is going to get a title win. He's not going to win the title. Jericho is retaining the championship easy. There's no doubt about it. It is a more than definite situation that will happen. So I don't see Jericho losing this title so soon. I think later on, maybe early part of 2020, that's when I think he's going to lose the title. I think Double or Nothing really should be their pay-per-view WrestleMania, SummerSlam, kind of one of their mega pay-per-view events for their brand, for their company. So let me go into some of the information that was posted here on what happened in the match. Nick and Cassidy get things rolling. Lots of reversals. Cassidy able to avoid a super kick. They stare at each other for a moment, and Nick throws his gum. Matt tagged in, and they hit a flurry of double team moves on both Cassidy and Quinn. Matt lands a double axe handle off the top rope. Nick back in and double stomps Cassidy's arm. Nick sends Quinn off the apron. They tried for a double suplex, and Cassidy lands on his feet and dumps Matt out to the floor. Cassidy ends up on the apron, kicks away Nick, and hits an moonsault on Matt. Quinn tagged in and hits a massive springboard crossbody. Quinn with a suicide dive, crossbody senton, and a Fosbury flop, going from side to side out of the ring to the floor on each opponent. He brings Nick back into the ring and goes for a pin for 2. Just reading this, I don't even have to envision. I mean, literally, I don't even have to fucking see what happened in this match. Just reading this information to you guys just tells me right then and there they fucking put on a good show to start the show off. This match, just reading, sounds awesome. I mean, I know I don't sound great reading it off to you because I sound bland and fucking ridiculous. But that's how I sound when I read, so I apologize about that. But I don't remember everything that happened, per se, during every single fucking matchup and every move that they did. So excuse me for not having the greatest memory in the world, but who the fuck's gonna remember 2 hours of fucking wrestling of each and every move that everybody performed in the fucking ring? Sorry to sound like I'm ranting, but, yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, pretty much we get back and forth action all over the place. And from the end, we get the 1, 2, 3 with Cassidy. He yanks down Nick and Quinn with a sneaky roll-up for the 1, 2, 3. So, even though the Young Bucks lose this match, Cassidy ends up getting a lucky little, or Quinn gets a lucky little sneak roll-up pin for a 1, 2, 3 to get them to advance on to the next round of the tournament. I like this. 1, it doesn't make the Young Bucks look pathetic. 2, it made the Private Party look like they're trying to get... they pretty much were sneaking in an opportunity. They were opportunists in this situation. So, I liked this situation. I liked what they did here. I think that they didn't make either team look pathetic. And it made like the underdog team pull out a great victory that was totally unexpected. So I really enjoyed that. And I liked the outcome of what they did here. So that was the right move on their part. I kind of figured that's what they were going to go for anyway. I feel personally that Private Party should be the team to win the tag team titles. Now, I've heard from a guy like JD saying the Jurassic Express should be the tag team to win. I don't know about that. I mean, they're a good tag team. They're very fun to watch. They got a great little gimmick. But I don't know if they're really something I would be interested in at least seeing as the tag team champions just yet. Private Party, I mean, they're not something I'm familiar with either, but they have this tag team. They feel like I feel like I'm watching the African American version of the Young Bucks, to be honest with you, or like fucking Santana and Ortiz. That's what I feel like I'm watching when I watch Private Party wrestle. So I actually enjoy them a lot better than any of the tag teams they got right now. At least the ones that are not fully established to the entire audience in the world. You know, the mainstream media or whatever. But they're a great tag team. I like what they have to offer in the ring. They remind me a little bit of actually the Street Profits too. So that's, I guess, where I was kind of getting at with this tag team. But yeah, the Private Party I'm very high on. I think they should be the ones that win the tag team titles. That's just how I feel on that. So after the match was over, we move on to Chris Jericho. He heads out to the ring with Sammy Guevara, Ortiz and Santana, and Jack Hager. Jack Hager, formerly known as Jack Swagger, he actually really looks interesting. The one thing I did like that they did here was they didn't have Jack Swagger, or I should say Jack Hager, so people don't get confused on who the fuck I'm talking about. But Jack Hager, formerly known as Jack Swagger. Jack Hager, I like the fact that they didn't have him talk. They made him kind of come across like he was just a bodyguard mostly. I mean, and really honestly, he's not even that intimidating. He doesn't look like the type to be a bodyguard, but with his background experience in MMA fighting now, you could take him a little bit more seriously. But still, even with all that, to me, he doesn't look that intimidating. Now, if they had a guy like Brock Lesnar, that would be a little different. Some very large, buffed up guy like that, I would take that seriously. Jack Hager, not so much, but at the same time, he's definitely a force in the ring. They make him portray that kind of character, so I'm okay with that. So Jericho goes on to say that last week's AEW was the highest rated premiere on TNT, and it was all because of him. That was funny as shit when he said that. Jericho then introduces each of his stablemates and says Guevara is one of the most talented in the ring at his age. And he's on Jericho's list. Throwing in the old, you just made the list type deal. But yeah, I have to agree with Jericho on that comment, even though it was part of the whole segment that he was supposed to say. Guevara is actually a very talented wrestler. I enjoyed what I saw last week with him against Cody Rhodes, so he put on a good show. He continues to do that. He's definitely gonna succeed within the company. I don't know about World Championship material, but I definitely see him being in a main event grudge match type of thing at some point down the line in his career. But right now he's just, needs to keep getting and building up matches and looking good in those matches. So that's just how I feel on that. Jericho says that Santana Ortiz are nastier than they've ever been. Back alley brutes, and they made the list. Again, continuing to make the list. Jericho with a Viva La Raza. Today is Eddie Guerrero's birthday, so he makes a reference to Eddie Guerrero, which was very cool. And then finally introduces Hager, the crowd with "We the People" chant. Come on, guys. This isn't WWE. Forget about the WWE gimmick. It ain't ever coming back. Never. I don't care how many times you do "We the People" bullshit. It doesn't matter, even though it was fucking great as shit when he did that with Cesaro. But that's not coming back anytime soon. Jericho says that was a stupid idea by creative. It's dead and buried. So he actually interacts with the crowd like that. Jericho praises Hager's MMA work. He says the toughest in AEW. Jericho introduces the stable as the Inner Circle. Very catchy name. I like that. The Inner Circle does have a nice ring to it, so I'm totally for that gimmick for their stable name. Jericho moves on to Cody. He says he doesn't like Cody nor his family. Calls Dusty Rhodes a jerk and says he'll kick Dustin Rhodes' ass later tonight. Jericho then says he's going to beat the ever-living shit, doesn't get censored either, out of Cody at AEW Full Gear on November 9th. Damn. I just gotta tell you this, guys. This show went on for the first 30 minutes, and I absolutely was thrilled to watch it. I was happy to be a wrestling fan. This is so fucking cool. I love Wednesday nights, especially, and it's not because of NXT. Even though, don't get me wrong, I love my NXT. I will never... after I'm done with this review, I'm watching NXT and then reviewing it tomorrow night when I get home from work. So you guys will not miss the NXT review. I will be delivering that to you guys tomorrow night. It's just that I love AEW. I love what they have to offer and what they bring to the table when it comes to wrestling. They give us fucking wrestling. We get that fucking adrenaline rush, that feel that you're happy to be a fucking wrestling fan. Here, this is the fucking WWE doesn't deliver any of that to us. And I think that's the reason why NXT is suffering, because they're part of the WWE banner, and they're gonna get shit on by the fans, honestly. Alright, so let's see here. And that's basically all there was at this point. So then we move on to Jimmy Havoc and Darby Allin. This match was very solid. I think this is probably the best match Jimmy Havoc has had since I've seen him performing in AEW, and I have seen him in Impact Wrestling when they had the one night only type of events during the time that he was with a smaller wrestling promotion that they were partnered up with for one night. And he actually performed in front of, I believe it was with Sami Callihan. And they had a pretty damn good match, but nothing to the level of what we saw here tonight. Darby Allin is a good performer. He may be hardcore looking, gothic type look to him, but he actually can wrestle. He doesn't need barbed wire bats, chairs, and all that other nonsense to get over as an in-ring performer. He has the ability to put on a good match, and he definitely displayed it here. This show, I'll tell you the truth. Last week, I was pumped. I mean, literally, I wanted to watch a replay of it online. And after this episode, I want to fucking watch this episode online again. This was just so much fun to watch. At the end of the match, by the end of the match, how Allin won the match is Allin hit a flipping stunner, coffin drop off the top rope, and hits the 1, 2, 3. And that's basically how Darby Allin gets the win. So that is pretty much it for that match. Darby Allin gets his victory. This matchup, gotta say, had a lot to offer. Well worth to go back and watch again. There was actually a little bit of biting involved in this, so yeah, that was a little fucking weird. So then we have Bea Priestley and Emma Sakura, or Sakara. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right. If I am pronouncing it correctly, I apologize about that. Facing AEW's champion for the women's division, Riho, and Dr. Britt Baker. Britt Baker, gotta say, Britt Baker is the shit. She's about the only female wrestler in this division of AEW that I find impressive. I think she has the talent and capabilities to carry this division. She definitely has the ability. If she was put in a situation to face a woman like Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, or even Bayley for that matter, she would put on a great match with any four of those women that are the top-notch women wrestlers in that division of WWE. So clearly, Britt Baker is the shit for this company. She should become the next women's champion to defeat Riho. I think Riho needs to lose the title, maybe at Full Gear, possibly, against Britt Baker. I think they announced that Britt Baker was already getting a match with Riho for the women's championship as well next week on AEW. But Riho and Britt Baker get the win because of the submission hole with a mandible claw, while also doing a inverted or modified crossface, or ring of Saturn is what she was delivering, and she put a mandible claw on top of it on Sakura for the tap out. So decent match there, very good and very entertaining. I mean, the match wasn't super great, but it was a hell of a lot better than fucking last week's women's championship match. I'll put it to you that way. We had a segment though that was really weird to me. They have a new woman to interview the best of friends with Trent Beretta and whatchamacallit, forgot his fucking name. Whatever. And Chuck Taylor, excuse me. Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, they were interviewed by this new woman who did an interview outside the ring, asking about how they feel about facing SCU next week and if they think they have any chance of beating them. And Chuck says, "Don't ask me, ask this guy," and a camera pans back to Orange Cassidy, and he gives a weak thumbs up. So that was a little weird. I didn't really particularly care for that segment. It probably the only worst part, really the only bad part of this whole show, which is not much. Shawn Spears and Jon Moxley. Wow, did this match seem rough and stiff. These guys, I'm going to read you guys a little bit of what happened during this matchup. I'm not going to go all the way through and read every bit of detail, but I'll just kind of go into it. Pac was also on commentary. So Moxley gets right in Spears' face. Tully Blanchard tries to pull him back and gets a bit of a headbutt from Moxley and bails out of the ring. Pac on commentary wonders why he's not getting a title shot despite having 2 very impressive wins in AEW. I have to agree with that. And here's the reason why you are not getting a title shot yet. You deserve a title shot on a pay-per-view, my friend. That's why. Because your fucking ass is unbelievable and you perform at a very high level and you should not be placed on a television show for a title shot. If you're going to get a title win, you deserve to be on a pay-per-view in the main event. That's what you deserve, unlike what WWE could do with you at the time. So there you go. But let's just go into some of what happened. So Moxley chops and swings away on Spears. Kick to the back and then to the chest. Elbow drop, cover, 2. Spears finally gets in some shots, but eats a big elbow that slows him down. Crowd very much behind Moxley in this one. Why shouldn't they be? He's probably one of the biggest stars on the company's roster right now outside of Chris Jericho. And Spears bails out to the floor, but Moxley follows and launches him into the barricade. And so we move on. Moxley goes after Blanchard for a moment, gets hit from behind, but ends up dropping Spears again. He tosses Spears in the ring, referee checking on him, and Blanchard shoves Moxley into the steps. Looks like Blanchard handed something over to Spears, who then sends Moxley into the steps again. Pac says in the past 2 years he's been pinned once. Nobody can hold a candle to him, and he wonders why he's at commentary instead of getting the match he deserved. Both Spears and Moxley are on the floor. Spears hits a Death Valley driver right into the barricade. Yeah, that spot right there, I have to admit, was a very, it looked like Moxley's head really whacked into the hard part of the floor instead of the padding in that when he was hanging off the barricade. So that did look like it hurt him, and he looked a little roughed up. He kind of was grabbing his arm. It looked like he might have lost feeling in his arm, I think. But that's just me. That's just how I feel. I just think maybe that was him losing feeling in his hand or just selling a move that Shawn Spears performed on him. Spears, I got to admit, he's on a very bad losing streak. He needs to get a victory soon because he's not being... He may be a very badass type character, but he's not winning anything. He's looking like what WWE does to their heels. Just being, portrayed as badasses but not winning anything in the long run. So I don't understand why they're doing that to Shawn Spears. I think they need to move him downward to some other person that they feel that they would be okay with him beating so that he's not taking so many losses, and build him up to a point where he would be okay to beat a bigger star without hurting the bigger star in the long run. But him going up against these big star names and losing all the time is not good for him whatsoever, I don't think. I mean, losing to Jon Moxley and losing to Cody Rhodes, I think is okay for right now, but he needs to get a win under his belt and pronto. So that's just what I think on that subject, man, because this situation with him losing is not good. That's what he was doing before in WWE as Ty Dillinger. So I hope they don't continue that with him being as Shawn Spears. So let's continue on here. Spears with a suicide dive on Moxley, throws him back into the ring, taunts the crowd a bit, but Moxley hits a suicide dive of his own. Both back in the ring now as Moxley punches and chops away. Moxley with a running knee to the head, cover 2. Pac still at commentary, but not saying much. He's mad and wants what's due to him. I do like that. I like when they did pan the camera on him while the action was going on to show his frustration and aggravation at the fact that he has not been pushed in some kind of level of importance. Since he's been on such a humongous winning streak since he left WWE. And he has been. I've read about him in the dirt sheets, what he's been doing. I've seen some of his matches on YouTube, what he's been doing outside of WWE. He's been a fucking star and a stud. And I do believe he lost the 1 or 2 matches to Austin Aries, which he won back from Austin Aries, and I think that was at Defiant Wrestling Company in the UK, I believe it is. And he's been doing well as wrestling competitor wise, but money wise, I don't know what he's been doing, what he's been getting money wise, and nor do I really care. That's not any of my business. But he's definitely been looking strong with all the companies he's been in these smaller promotions, and in AEW, they made him look strong here. So it definitely looks really good that they're pushing this and making the idea, or hinting at least, that AEW is making Pac seem important. So back and forth, strikes in the ring, Moxley with a big lariat, Blanchard getting on the apron for a quick distraction. Spears drops Moxley's neck over his knee and covered for a 2 count. Spear does the 10 taunt and eats a headbutt, and then Moxley lands the paradigm shift with a double arm DDT, which he used to call the Dirty Deeds maneuver, or he also calls it the Death Rider for New Japan Wrestling, and he got the 1, 2, 3 and win the match. Post-match, Kenny Omega comes down the ramp and has 2 weapons in his hand. One, a broom with barbed wire wrapped around the soft part of the broomstick, and then a baseball bat with barbed wire wrapped around that. He tosses the barbed wire bat to to Jon Moxley, and they're looking like they're about ready to go to war with these 2 weapons, and then fucking Pac comes out of nowhere with a chair, knocks Kenny Omega in the back of the neck, and leaves him laying on the floor with really nothing to show for himself. He's pretty much knocked out mostly, with a nice shot to the neck. And it looks like he was going to, Pac was saying to Jon Moxley, like, hey, dude, all yours, buddy, go for it. And he just kind of stands there, holds the bat in his hand, and looks down at Kenny, and he's like, nah, this is not something I'm going to do. And he throws the bat down, and he walks away. And I like that. That was awesome. This whole thing with Jon Moxley, with Kenny Omega, had nothing to do with him trying to get an upper hand or seem like he's interested in killing or hurting Kenny Omega. His whole interest is trying to face the best, and what he did at Double or Nothing was just more along the lines of getting the upper hand over Kenny Omega and getting him pissed off enough to be okay with facing Jon Moxley in a one-on-one match, making it a little bit more personal, but at the same time still having enough respect for him not to attack him in that manner. So I really agreed with the decision-making in that segment. So I really am cool with what they did there. So I felt that was pretty good on their part. Now we go for the main event. It's Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara facing Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Page. Hangman Page being highlighted in this main event matchup, I think, was a very intelligent thing for them to do. And doing the same thing for Sammy Guevara. Because these two guys are not very familiar. They're not familiar to the wrestling audience that much. I mean, unless you paid attention to every fucking wrestling company in the world, you wouldn't know jack shit about them. So I like the idea of what they did here. Hangman Page has been highlighted very much. Yes, he has lost some matches, but he has also won matches on top of it. So I think that that's awesome on their part for what they're doing to Hangman Page. They're really doing him a lot of good. Dustin Rhodes, on the other hand, he hasn't been getting any wins. He lost this match as well. He's a weak link to any tag team or the jobber to anybody he faces, which I don't agree with. If you're going to highlight him and put him in your show, have him win at least once or twice or something. You know, this losing all the time to these bigger names, it's a little weak after a while. It makes no purpose for Dustin Rhodes to even be there except for an excuse to take another loss so that somebody else that's on a tag team or somebody they want to push for him to job out to and, you know, put over is all he's good for. That gets kind of old after a while. So that's just my feelings on that. So Dustin and Jericho get things started. Dustin gets the early attack, pulls Jericho's shirt over his head, and throws a bunch of punches his way. He dumps Jericho over the barricade. Guevara tries to get in a sneak attack, but eats a punch. Back in the ring, Page tags in and goes to work with a big lariats. Page then catches Guevara in midway and fall away slam kick up. Cross body to the floor on Jericho, and Guevara looks for a big kick, misses, gets picked off the mat, and German suplex with the bridge for a 2 count. It was very nice stuff by Hangman Page in the middle of this matchup. So they did an outstanding job on that. Dustin tags in. Dustin drops down and throws a big uppercut, so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I mean, this matchup really, me reading all this stuff to you guys is just, for me, and probably for you guys most importantly, is very fucking boring to hear me blabber about the dialogue that's written, what happened here. Basically, overall, this matchup, again, these matches are very close. Neither team looked like they were being dominated by the other. And at that point, Jericho picked up the victory for his tag team, beating Dustin Rhodes. And he hit the Judas effect, which is the spinning elbow to the face. And he got the 1, 2, 3 in the victory. And that was it on Dustin Rhodes. This matchup was a nice way to close out the show. I felt that the match that should have closed out the show, I think maybe should have been Jon Moxley and Shawn Spears because of what happened at the end. But the ending after the tag team match, they did a great job here as well. So both of those little segments had a little bit of a little hanger to it to make you want to catch it next week again. So they give you that kind of feeling, really, both segments. So that was really great job. Kudos to both by creative on AEW to do this. Overall, I mean, there was an aftermath attack. All 3 guys attacks Dustin. Page is up and tries to help out. Oh yeah, Jack Hager was actually there at ringside as well. So he was part of this 3-man beatdown to Dustin. Page is up and tries to help out, but the numbers are too much as Hager sends Page out to the floor, and then Page launches a chair at Hager. The 2 fight to the back. Guevara and Jericho stomp away at Dustin. The lights go out, and come back up is Cody. Cody Rhodes hits a crossroads on Guevara, which looked nasty as shit. Literally, it looked like the top of his skull hit the fucking mat, and he looked like he was stunned for a moment when his head hit the fucking mat itself. Cody and Jericho square up in the ring, and Santana Ortiz blindside Cody. Jericho holds the title up and celebrates a bit. Dustin tries to help, but no avail. Jericho goes to attack with his belt, and so on and so forth. But later on, we get some other people show up in their defense. MJF runs out with a chair, but pauses. Jericho then holds Cody and offers up MJF attacking him. MJF goes right after Santana and Ortiz. Jericho bails for a moment, and crowd pops big for MJF's choice. He celebrates a bit, but eats a code breaker in the end. The Young Bucks then head out. So everybody from Elite, the Elite group that started this whole thing, or were friends with Cody, is trying to help out in this situation. At the end of it, it all breaks down. Cody's team looks strong as fuck, and he goes ahead and he has fucking Darby Allin come down in a fucking skateboard, rides down the ramp, hits him in the face. Then after that, he hits him with two shots with the skateboard. The second one was nasty as shit with the wheels hitting him right in the fucking back. That looked like it hurt like a bitch. And then he gets on the microphone and says, "You stupid idiots, you don't know who you're dealing with." He tells Darby next week, it's your funeral, bitch. And then Cody and company stand tall in the middle of the ring and the show goes off the air. Awesome way to end the show. Thought it was great. Definitely a nice little cliffhanger to get you interested and wanting to see what happens next week. I'm really interested in what Darby Allin has to offer to a world title match. See how well they put him in this situation. If they make him look really at any point in time to look like he might beat Chris Jericho for the title. But anyway, guys, leave your comments and opinions down below. Hit the like button if you liked the video, and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to this channel. And I thank you very much for watching, and have a great night, guys. Bye.